Hi everyone, this is Carol. Welcome back to my channel, and know that I am glad that you have joined me today as I continue my series on Mana Arcana and Numerology. Today the video is going to be on the eights in the tarot and the corresponding number 8. And if you recall from the last video when we covered the number 7, there was a sense of resting, pause, and contemplation. At the 8 level, we are now going to see movement. We're going to see growth, and we're going to see manifestation of that energy in the cards and related to the symbology of the number. So let's begin. What does number 8 correspond to and represent? Well, number 8 corresponds to justice, material progress, organization, order, balance, and last but certainly not least, karma, the law of cause and effect. Yes, number 8 relates to karma. Number 8 also represents an unending cycle, and that is suggested by its glove, okay? The unending cycle meaning that it is the only number that you can do continuously without removing your writing instrument. And of course, that certainly corresponds to karma, but it also indicates that life is interconnected, and that interconnection of the number 8 is depicted by the 2 circles. And it is said that the top circle has to do with the spiritual world, and the bottom half of the number 8, its image, has to do with the material world. So having this shape made like this, the influence is at a crucial point of transition. And of course, that is in the center here. That's from the connection with the material world and the spiritual world. And that is always cyclical, that we're sometimes being in both worlds. We go into one, but then we return into the other. And that is human nature and the way that we learn. Now, if you put the 8 horizontally, that is mathematically representing the infinity sign. And we see that in none other than the major card, number 8 here. There's the infinity sign, and that card is strength. Okay, so here again, there's definitely a correlation. Now, the corresponding planet for number 8 is Saturn. And he has many names and attributes. For those of us who study astrology will be very familiar. He's known as the malefic planet. Now, the oldest title that I have found for Saturn that is known is the Lord of Karma. Certainly that ties into number 8 again. We also know Saturn as Father Time, the taskmaker. And Saturn, of course, talks about life cycles. Again, if you're an astrologer, we talk about the Saturn returns and the lessons that need to be learned when Saturn comes back in our chart to the place of our birth, where Saturn was to the place of our birth. When we have a Saturn return, anywhere from 29 to 30 years, there's a major change, a major turning point in our life, a growth cycle. So we also know Saturn as life cycles. I like to say that the pain is for a gain, and that is why Saturn is known as the malefic, because it brings unpleasantries. It brings things that maybe we really don't want to face. But we also know that we have to deal with the We have to deal with uncomfortable aspects of living in order to gain awareness and to get us out of our comfort zone and ultimately be in a better place, whether that's physical, mental, or spiritual. So there's a reason why these things happen to us, and it isn't that it's bad fate in life or bad luck. Has nothing to do with that. Everything is cyclical, everything has a purpose, and number 8 being karmic in nature, as above so below, what we reap and what we then sow is cyclical, and again, for the last time I'll say this, for a purpose. Okay, now in order, Saturn also does what he does in order to make room for the new. It's almost like out of the old and in with the new. So there's this process of change that occurs by maybe a destructive force. Saturn in a chart sometimes does away with things that are no longer beneficial for us as an individual and as a collective. Saturn does that. But it also represents the urge for security and safety for our own sake. I also like to bring in another correlation. If you know, again, astrology, and you know the 8th house, which is Scorpio, that's the house of death and regeneration, which goes back to what I said before, where the old now have to transform, die off in order for something new to regenerate, or a rebirthing process, if you will. And how interesting that the 8 has to do with karma, the planet Saturn has to do with karma, and regeneration of the 8th house is all factored into understanding and hopefully interpreting these cards that we're about to do right now. So let's begin with the 8 of Wands. We know that Wands is fire energy, that's the element, and it's spiritual. It relates to growth, force, enterprise, and you've heard me say this before, the wand suits represents the self. So here we have 8 wands in flight, and it's surrounded by this beautiful blue sky, and it's moving over a body of water. Water is the unconscious. We can see it here. And it's coming from the left, the past. And what we saw, the opposition that we experienced at the 7th level here, is gone now. And everything is moving. And it's moving swiftly in the air. So there could be travel, there could be communication, news, and it's unexpected. There's great emphasis. There's a purpose for this. And sometimes this card comes out when we are having a very creative urge, especially if you're in the arts, entertainment, and dance. It's also symbolic of change of residence, opportunities, offers that are coming through telephone, all types of media that we're experiencing in this day and age. But there is a lesson to behold in this card. When you look at the wands, you see that one is quite shorter than the rest. Now, they're not all even, but this one really sticks out. And what that represents is it needs your attention. It needs a little bit more work. Remember, everything is up in the air. Nothing is grounded. So this has to be addressed and looked at. Now, on a personal level, wands, as I said, represents the self. So this card can show a new aspect, a new concept of the way that you relate to your surroundings. It could be a new perspective on life and how you move forward with your ideas and energy in a more confident, maybe aggressive manner. It could also be a surge of sexual energy. Sometimes there's new relationships and what that brings out in you. So you can look at it in that respect. But again, I want to reiterate that this card does not necessarily suggest success in and of itself, but it indicates conditions which can lead to great success. On the last note, because we're talking about the number 8 and karma and the spiritual world and the material world and the interconnection of how we go in both worlds, these cards sometimes indicate astral travel and a body-mind connection that is seeking knowledge. Okay, let's go on to the 8 of Cups, the suit of feelings, relationships, and emotions. And again, I would like to begin by interpreting this card by looking at the image in a very symbolic way. And the thing that sticks out the most for me is the eclipse that this card is relating on the left-hand side. Now, an eclipse is usually a connotation of something that is very important and about to happen or is in the process of happening. And it's a full moon which is eclipsing the sun, and that suggests inner awareness. Certainly that is the theme here. Also, that light from that full eclipse is the lighting the path for the figure, the image, the person that seems to be traveling. As you can see, the darkness here, there's a little, it's a very shadow, and you're seeing some light over here, and he seems to be maybe looking up at it to be inspired, but that is very important in understanding the interpretation of meaning of this card. Okay, going back to the body of water that we're seeing here. In this card, the image, this person has gone over, traveled this body of water, which we did not see, and I'm getting the card right now, in the 5 of Cups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. He did not cross the body of water. Now, at the 8 level, he crossed that body of water, which basically breaks down to that he has dealt, felt, internalized, and incorporated the emotional feelings and connections that he had, that he definitely was grieving over and working through at the 5 level. The other thing that I want to bring to your attention immediately that's going to help connect all this together is the way the suits in the cards are connected and laid out. We have 5 cups, 2 cups, and 1 cup. We have 5 swords, 2 swords, and 1 sword. It's away, and this is in line with the others. We have 5 pentacles that are nailed to this tree. We have 2, one that is leaning and has been worked on, one that is being worked on, and then we have 1 single laid down completely. So we have this 1, 2, and 5 energy that we really need to kind of understand and interpreting the meaning of. Okay, so let's get a overall understanding of what that could mean. Well, in the 5 of Cups, the person here has understood his initial emotions, his beginning, and how it was emotionally related to someone or something else. Now, the same can be said here. The initial idea that led to the agreement or partnership or course of action is here. And of course, the potential to create, which is in the process of creating, which has led to the situation or the outcome that we're seeing here with the 5, the outcome that we're seeing here with the 5, and the foundation of the 5 cups. Again, this is the first time we see a connection or cups stacked right on top of another, which basically means that they are interrelated, that one emotion leads to another, and the same is true in the 8 of Swords, because the hilt of the swords are all touching, except again for the initial idea. These are been nailed, and there's Kabbalistic indications of what a nail represents on the tree of life with the tetragrammaton, which we're not going to get into here, but they have led to a very positive things from the initial offer of your creative energies that are within you and how you manifested and used that creativity to where you are today. So basically, this card is saying that he is walking away from all attachments, agreements, or connections, maybe to family, people, jobs, home, from his past. And the number 5 here and here and here also represents what the number 5 is, the number of man, the number of man's 5 senses, instincts, that when we use those senses and instincts lead us in our minds to make decisions and to communicate accordingly. So it is the number of our own manifestations. We are the creator of what we are seeing presented to us here at the 8 level. So continuing to read the symbols, the number 8 has the power and desire. Okay, the number 8 has the power and the desire. Desire is shown here with his red cloak and his red shoes to move out of that which he has established in the past and identified with, and now turns his back and looks to the right, the unknown, the future, the mountains here of spiritual attainment. Certainly there's a sense of an emotional and spiritual organization going on in this card. The cups also tell you that that he's leaving, that he's not turning his back on them anymore because they are on a different level. He's crossed the river, the unconscious, what he feared, and now he's on green ground here, and there's future growth, so there isn't any turning back. Okay, now the message here that we can also get from this card is a need to detach in order to experience something greater, even if there is no guarantees, and there certainly isn't shown any guarantees in this card. Okay, also the figure, going back to the symbology, shows his right hand, right? He's using the power of the his energy, the active part. He holds very aggressively to a staff or a wand, which is a spirit, it's a fire. It is an inner desire to seek new territory, and that is his strength, that is his foundation, as he moves forward. So when this card turns up, it may indicate that the current would benefit from also studying the mysteries of life, metaphysics, philosophy, universal laws, and certainly about karma. So we can look at it that way as well. All right, moving on to the Eight of Swords. This image portrays physical and mental restrictions. That's an easy one, right? We know that the suit of swords is the element air. Air relates to the mind, the intelligence. It's also a force. It's also strife, but it's also ambition and courage. Now, the swords represents actions that we take that can be very constructive or destructive. And this is a result of what basically the mind perceives from the past and the present, as she is surrounded right now with the swords. So her thinking or her decisions and her actions have now led to this, okay? Let's also look at, how do I want to kind of go a little bit more forward and explain it. Let's go by that the 8 definitely has produced fear here. Because she's, if we read the symbols, the fear is related because she's unable to see her way clearly out of this situation. She doesn't know how to move out of the situation, the black hair, as well as the air or the energy is still in action. It's still blowing. We can see that because her hair is in motion, so, or the wind is in motion, so the mind is ever changing and it is in fear, so the changing mind leads to inertia, no action whatsoever. Now there's also a sense of bondage here or being abandoned. I say that because looking at this card as a mirror image, by that I mean when the images on the cards are facing you, the right is the left and the left is the right. So on her left side there is a castle, and she is still under the forces of that authority. That's a grand castle. That indicates the authority, and she is still under those forces. Now, on her right side is these violet or purple mountains, and that is the spiritual attainment or hills and valleys and obstacles that she would have to learn or understand or relate to conceptually in her mind in order to go there and seek a sense of safety and less fear, but that's not occurring right now for her. Now, the other thing that we can look at, going back to that 8, how strong this number 8 is in these cards. You have the material world and the spiritual world, or we can say that we have the conscious and we have the unconscious. She has one foot on the land. That's the material world, okay? That's what we know. And then she has one foot in the water, the emotional, the unknown, the spiritual world. Again, there is an indecision as to what to do. So when this card comes up, we have to ask ourselves, do I have to change my mind? Do I need to get out of denial? I may be in a rut or in a destructive cycle, and my denial has left me powerless and able to help myself. I am lacking courage. I say that because her garment is a reddish orange, but it is bound. So she's is not using her courage, or she feels she can't use her courage. So the fear of seeing or knowing the reality of the truth to the situation is also in play here. So this person has to take the initiative and take one step at a time towards change, towards moving. The inertia has to end, and that one step can lead to other possibilities of personal growth, asking for help, being willing to experience the painful or physical situation that she is in. That truth can be sometimes bittersweet, but it's always liberating. And Saturn, the task maker that we've been talking about, really has exhilarating effects on us when we understand just how free we are when it comes to the spiritual reality of who we are, what we are, and what we are capable of. That spirituality gives us a freedom to explore, to conquer, to believe that this too shall pass, and that I have to be willing to take off my blinders and face the reality of what is in front of me right now. And also there is that new opportunity that she can walk to and start again. Okay. Last but certainly not least, we're coming to the Eight of Pentacles, the element earth, and it relates to work, skills, tangible assets, finances, and the physical body. Now the image depicts productivity, organization, also determination. Look at his body. He's leaning over. His feet are in a sense of stability. He knows the value of hard work. He's also very good at his craft. And also back to this 8, here we go again. Remember, desire is red, and the unknown spiritual or the feminine is blue. The unconscious, red is masculine, blue is feminine. Well, his desire is to sit there and be very creative, but he also mixes in where the body from the waist up, as you can see the white sash around him, the solar plexus. He also understands the importance of the spiritual world here, and he balances those very beautifully by his garment. Now, we also know that he has this black apron, so it indicates on a positive note that he's unaware of the city or the material world at this point, because that black apron protects him from distraction. He has his back turned on the city, but he is also very connected to the importance of community, the city, where he lives, because there is this white path going back to the castle, and that is open to him. But where he does his work, his craft, his productivity, where he renews his body, where he works on his finances, is in this kind of green and yellow ground, okay, where he's grounded, where his workbench is with its 4 legs, definitely grounded. The yellow is the intellect and green is growth. So it's productive mind and physical growth and productivity, which he has nailed, as I said earlier, to the board. So again, looking at the arrangement, we see that the 5 nailed to the tree are kind of leaning on the right side. So they are the future. And will he be sharing those with the other people, which is also very important in our spiritual makeup, that we contribute back to our community, that we maybe create or manifest or produce something that is for the betterment of all concerned, whether that's a product, a safety, whether that's a medical substance that a scientist may create that benefits health and vitality. Again, remember, the number 8 has to do with regenerating. And of course, number 8 and pentacles has to do with the physical body. So this person is one who knows, if we're looking at the interpretation of this card, how to manage money. One who has their own style of creativity. It may be artistic. It may be the manner in which he does it that eliminates certain steps and expedites productivity. He displays his skills and presents them to the world for them maybe to purchase or to see or to learn from. And of course, we have the good balance of health and vitality, because everything seems to be working in unison together, in the red, in the blue, in the white. His knowing the importance of the connection between spiritual and the material world. You know, I also find it interesting that the planet Saturn, which of course has to do with the skeletal system in the body, here we have the 8 of Pentacles, and it brings to mind the importance of the health of our spinal cord, our spine, in our physical body, because that gives us not only strength, but it's the spinal cord nourishes everything in the endocrine system. Everything comes from the spinal cord. And going back again to the spirituality of the number 8, we also know the connection that the spinal cord is the avenue for higher consciousness, the Kundalini. So this relates to how the number 8 is the connection between the physical world and the spiritual world, and that the spinal cord and higher states of consciousness, that's the pathway to those other worlds. That's just interesting to me how they're connecting. So here again, we come to the end of this video, and I welcome all of your questions and your comments. I hope this has been beneficial. I know sometimes they're long as I try to explain everything, but I want to thank everyone for following and your interest in this series. Thanks again. Blessings to all of you. Bye for now.